Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Search Sessions. We at Boostability are going to be hosting this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, bringing on different industry thought leaders to talk about how to really position your business during an economic downturn and the COVID-19 pandemic to stay competitive. And each week, we're going to focus as well on different SEO advice and tactics and techniques. Today, we have a really special show for you. We're going to be covering the importance of SEO during COVID-19. We have two very special guests, two of our best SEO minds at Boostability on today. Colton Miller, our Director of SEO. Colton, would you like to say hi?
Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. And Mike Marsh, our SEO Manager.
Hey.
Great. And I'm Amanda Price, the VP of Marketing here at Boostability. So let's jump in. Today, we're going to cover some really important ground. We are breaking this kind of discussion up into two pieces and two parts. The first part is going to focus on positioning your business during an economic downturn and something like this COVID-19 pandemic that's just changing the way we live, the way we work. How to stay competitive. There's a lot of change happening right now, a lot of uncertainty. And so the purpose of these sessions is to really come together and focus on what we do have control over, what we can do. Our business models have been challenged and changed, and we really want to help provide advice and leadership from other thought leaders on how to manage our businesses through this time. So we'll start there, and then we're going to dive into a really wonderful session on SEO and the importance of SEO during this time, and then also give some really great tactical things that you can then go and do and start working on right away after this presentation. All right, so we all know we are living in extraordinary times. The U.S. economy and the global economy is in a complete state of flux right now. Business models are changing. Our audiences has shifted into different channels. Our world is seeing massive change at macro levels, and all the quarantines around the world that are being put into place are having a huge impact on businesses across the globe. So that leads us to a question. What should you or your clients do in this business environment? How do you stay competitive? What do you do? So the first thing we want to talk about is having a long-term mindset. When all of this is hitting us every day and the news is constantly changing and the numbers are changing and the impact is changing, number one, we have to deal with what's happening today. But we can't make decisions that are going to jeopardize our long-term strategies and our long-term mindset. So we wanted to start with a quote from Warren Buffett: be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. And you've probably seen this circulate around. He's one of the wisest investors of our time. And Mike, do you want to kind of talk to us a little bit about this quote and why we decided to include it?
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's something that he's talking to investors, but it's a mindset, like you mentioned, a long-term mindset where you can view this state of flux as an opportunity, because there's a lot of uncertainty around. It's something that, while we are definitely very sensitive to the situation, is something that every marketer's probably heard about and knows about, that you don't want to make light of the situation. That's something that we are very aware of as well, but it's something that there is chance for opportunity in uncertainty during this time. And so it's a little light at the end of the tunnel that we want to be during these search sessions, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we're really focused on, and I know something that fuels me is like finding the inspiration during this time. What do we have control over? And I just love trying to put myself in Warren Buffett's mind of, okay, things feel like they're crashing around us, and yes, things are changing and everything's in flux, but where is that opportunity? And stay with that business competitive mindset. And so, yeah, that's why we really wanted to kind of frame the conversation with that. And that goes into kind of our thesis here, which is about having that long-term mindset. When you think about digital marketing and especially SEO, it's not something that benefits from retreat. and I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but when you look at consumer behavior, because everyone is kind of quarantined inside, the internet usage has been skyrocketing, right? I mean, people are home. And so when you think about SEO and when you think about, well, as I mentioned, your digital marketing and communicating with people on digital channels, it's more important now than ever to stay in the game and stay strategic. It's hard to think that this thing could ever end. I mean, we've been home, for like 3 weeks now and watching it sweep across the globe. But the light at the end of the tunnel is that it will not last forever. These pandemics eventually do end, and we have amazing technology now to really help with this. So, from a business perspective, it's really important to position your business to address the post-world crisis, the world post-crisis, so that, when this is done, what have you done in this time for your business strategically online, so that when this is over, you're really well positioned. And the marketing actions that you take now really will affect the fate of your business when normal operations resume. So just remember that. I think that's really like our North Star, is like have that long-term mindset, and know that there is opportunity and uncertainty. So the next point is really to stay competitive. Keep your head in the game. Now is time for strategy, not retreat. And there's a bunch of different dynamics happening. Some competitors they're gonna pull out of the market, and that's an opportunity for you to stay in the market and go harder and go stronger. This is the time when you can really position your business for success, so that you stabilize now and you stabilize when the market is stabilized. There's a bunch of things you can do with this time. For instance, conduct a competitive audit. What are all your competitors doing? Have they changed their business model? Are they communicating on social in a certain way? Are they changing their email marketing? Have they started, a live broadcast on Instagram? There's a lot of things people are doing. And, if your business is a brick and mortar and you're not able to serve customers in your door, you can serve them online. I've seen some really innovative things happening, especially on the Instagram Live platform. Everything from restaurants providing like free cooking classes, to bars showing people how to make a cocktail, to preschools and elementary schools teaching kids, how to play music online and doing live music classes or book reading, or teaching people how to draw. Yoga instructors who can't be at a yoga studio or hosting live classes. I actually took one from this like Barry's boot camp type of thing in New York called Army. It's like AARMY this morning, and they posted a live workout class, and it was amazing and super hard. And I've actually been starting to follow a bunch of businesses that are providing this resource during this time when we're really craving connection. And I've found so many new businesses that I didn't even know about that I'm really building like affinity with, because they're reaching out and they're creating that like dialogue. So that's something to think about is, your business model might have completely changed. How can you stay engaging your customer and really stay competitive? On the SEO front, this is a great time for content creation. Really focus in on like, what are people looking for? What keywords? Go and do those SEO optimizations. You can also do things like incentives, right? So offer special packages or discounts for people to purchase your products. And then you might even need to pivot your business model. We at Boostability in a week migrated over 400 plus employees we have 5 offices in America and in Europe, all to work remotely. We've never done that before. And it worked. In fact, productivity levels are spiking. And it's working really well, which has enabled us to remain fully operational. There's another extremely inspiring business story of a local company here in Utah called Majestic Meat. And I'm going to have Mike tell you guys what they did, because it's just brilliant. And it not only saved revenue for their business, but it also saved their employees' jobs, because they were able to keep people employed during this time.
Oh, yeah, and it's an awesome story, and it's something that we're going to be following here. We're going to be posting on our blog this specific case study here on Friday. And we're going to be hopefully reaching out maybe sometime in the future. Maybe we get them on a search session. Maybe we talk to them a little bit more. But it's a great, inspiring story. The story is here in Utah, there's this locally owned and operated meat supplier that would supply different cuts and different types of meat to high-end restaurants only. And when the pandemic kind of came through and when a lot of restaurants closed down, they had all of this product. Majestic Meat had all this product that they could then no longer deliver. So what they had to do is they had to reevaluate and they had to pivot the business model. And what they did is they added an e-commerce ability to their website, and they cut up their meat and they individually packaged it, and they allowed just the general populace to actually go onto their site and order. And it was basically just through word of mouth that it was like, hey, this is a local company, they deliver, and it was really filling a need where the grocery stores, a lot of panic buying had happened, and so there wasn't a lot of product on the shelves, and so they in like it was over a weekend where they had someone that was able to help them and add that e-commerce ability to their site, and they were able to pivot. And so we're going to go into more details here on the blog, so definitely check that out here on Friday. Where we go into that.
And that's amazing. I mean, you have a business who used to, distribute meat to the restaurants. The restaurants are now closed down because of the pandemic. And they had all this inventory. And instead of having to, lay people off, what they did is they transitioned their business model to e-commerce. And then now you can buy directly from them and they deliver it to your doorstep with social distancing. Brilliant.
Yeah. It's amazing pivot.
Yeah. And that's just an inspiration, and that's what we want to kind of highlight is like some inspirational stories. Thank you, Mike. And that's kind of our focus here is that in uncertainty there is opportunity, and in fact Boostability was basically the mission behind it was really fueled coming out of the 2008 recession. Small businesses at the time couldn't really afford or didn't have access to SEO. SEO was really kind of like the enterprise game. And the whole mission behind Boostability was to make SEO affordable to small businesses. And that's exactly what we did. And that was a massive opportunity that really kind of was coming out of the 2008 recession. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, and in change, there's opportunity. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about before we kind of transition into the SEO part of the conversation is what's going on with consumer behavior right now. Since January 1st, there's been an 18% internet usage increase across America. A lot of that due to the fact that state and local governments have imposed these lockdowns, and everyone's now working from home. And what are they doing? They're spending a lot of time online. So Verizon said that there was a 22% increase in internet usage, 12% increase in video streaming, and 75% increase in online gaming. So your audience hasn't disappeared. They've just shifted online primarily. So when you think about that, organic search and being optimized from an SEO standpoint is more important now than ever. You need to capture their intent when they're searching for something and connect them with your business. And you also need to take advantage of all of the different digital channels you can use to connect with your audience. So the thing to remember is that people are not gone, they are online. All right. So we just talked about how to position your business for success when this is resolved. The next thing we're going to shift into is the importance of SEO during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we're going to wrap up with some tactical items that you can try.
So I believe, so I'll get started on this then. So what we want to talk about, like Amanda mentioned, is the idea that SEO definitely takes time. If you're looking at an SEO campaign, the overall campaign that you have, there's a lot of different moving parts. There's a lot of different things that go into getting on front page of Google, right? Typically, you'll hear agencies quote about 4 to 6 months to see those kind of large shifts in the SERPs. And so it's, again, keeping that long-term mindset. If you were to, say, for example, like this diagram shows, get on the front page of Google and then stop all of your SEO work, you run the risk of just dipping entirely in organic search. It's something that you run that risk if you just stop doing all of those integral tasks, whether it's like keyword research or different website optimizations, link building, all of these different SEO things that come into and what makes an overall campaign. I'm sure that a lot of listeners, if you're listening to Boostability, you're familiar at least with some of those tasks that either we provide or that SEO entails. And so you know that there's a lot of different things that go into this. And so it's something that especially we want to emphasize that SEO during this time of flux is something that you should not you shouldn't really pull back on. It's something that if you've already invested in the SEO and in your organic strategy, it's something that you should continue. There are other things that you've probably heard in the marketing world where it's with different paid advertisement or different social advertisement, where a lot of that kind of revenue has been pulled back. You see sometimes in search where there are less ads potentially, or where there's a lot of just difference in those. And we wanted to really emphasize the difference between your SEO tactics and your paid tactics. And so that's something that we definitely are very, very aware of. I haven't heard from Colton, but do you agree with that? With that assessment?
Completely agree with that. I mean, we all know this SEO takes time, and just like anything else, Google's trying to provide the best answer in real time, and that means that you have to be constantly putting your best foot forward and showing that you are the best, and that you're there for a reason, and that you should be the result that they're showing. So outside of it just taking a long time or being a longer term thing, it's one of those things where you have to stay in the game and stay up on it, so that way you can be the most relevant answer now, especially in this time where Google is probably getting a lot more usage data with people staying home and doing a lot more queries from home. Doing the activities that they may, either hold off or wait, or maybe they don't do, they're doing it now. And so there's definitely quite a bit of flux, especially when it comes to search rankings, things like that. But it's all the more reason to stay in the game and just essentially stay up on it.
Definitely. That kind of goes into the next point as well, where it's the idea of keeping things normal. Like we mentioned with the SEO campaign, if you look at it in its entirety, there's a lot of different things. There's content creation. There's different things that you have been doing, or maybe you haven't been doing. That it's trying to keep things and the value of keeping things as normal as possible during this time of flux, specifically with your SEO campaign. There was a study that I was able to find and research on Search Engine Roundtable, where they saw that if they did like a little case study of 10 different businesses, and they said, for these businesses, if we stopped all our SEO efforts, what would happen to these top rankings? And they're referring to the top, just the front page rankings. And they saw for the ones that they stopped all their SEO efforts, that their competition kind of took their place, and there was a 30% drop in top rankings. And so it's something to definitely keep in mind. What is your competition doing during this time? Are they continuing their efforts? If they are, then it's definitely something to consider for your efforts as well. And if they aren't, why not continue yours? You could then overtake them. You could go, and so it's the whole idea behind like the Warren Buffett quote, where it's there's opportunity in this uncertainty. Where if your competition is hesitant, you can then take their place. Just make sure that you're keeping things as normal as possible, especially with your SEO strategy, and that you're continuing on with those things.
I like, Mike, real quick, the idea of keeping things normal, because that's like the opposite of what you would think, right? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, crazy things are happening, I need to take crazy measures. But the concept of like, no, pause, actually like stay the course is so smart. It's so powerful.
And like you said, there's things that you can control, and there's things that you can't control. Just like in an SEO campaign, one of the greatest quotes, or it's not really a quote, but it's a point, is that search demand may change, but your strategy really shouldn't. like if you're looking at Google Search Console and you're seeing impressions are going up, that's an indicator. Hey, I'm doing like I should. There's an opportunity here. There's different definitely factors that you should look into, but it's within your control. And then, now what we're going to do, I think we're going to shift over to Colton and we're going to go over specific tactical things, right?
Yeah. So diving into some specifics here. Now is the time, especially if you're one of those businesses that's kind of been put on ice a little bit, or maybe it's kind of shifted the way that you actually do business. Now is the time to do all those things that you never had time to do before. And the biggest thing that I have found, especially when it comes to kind of the SMB space, is learning about your audience. Specifically, this is getting things like Google My Business data, your Google Analytics, website data, Search Console, Google Search Console. If you don't have those things set up, now is definitely time to first of all go set those up. Some of them go back in data, like Search Console will go back, I think it's 9 months if they have the data. So you can get some stuff kind of in the past there, but you can also get data going forward. Hopefully, if you've been doing SEO and you're still kind of in that atmosphere, you already have this data. So now is the time to really dig in. Some of the best things that I would kind of go through here are these kind of core questions for your business: the who, how, why, when, what. And I have some specific kind of questions within here that I would try to address. And if you don't know some of these things, take the time now to go through your data and try to actually find out and understand. So on the who side of things, you should always, know essentially who your model customer is. So things like, what's your average age range for your customer? Are they predominantly male, female? Specifically, do they come from any sort of heritage background? Are they, native to where you're from? Are they from somewhere else? Essentially, just understanding who your audience is, so that way you can better serve them and provide essentially content that's tailored for them. Another one will be the how, right? So are they visiting via desktop or mobile? How long are they actually staying? Are they there for a split second and they're leaving? Or is it something that they're staying on for a little bit of time? Are they actually digesting the content? Are they on pages that you would expect them to be? Another bit is scroll depth. Are they actually going into the pages you would expect them to, or are they just kind of staying up high? There's a bunch of tools that you can get around that, but overall, you just need to understand how people are actually using your site, which leads into kind of the why. And that could be, are you getting people from a source that you would expect? So if you've been doing SEO, are you getting people from organic? If you've been doing ads, are you getting people from that lead source? Or is there a lead source that maybe you weren't accounting for that you're getting people from, like social? Or maybe it's even referral traffic. Maybe you put a link out somewhere and all of a sudden it's getting all this attention that you never actually thought you were getting. The other bit that coincides with that is, are you getting people from the right place? If you offer a local service, are you actually attracting people in the surrounding area? Are they actually coming to you from there? Are you pulling people maybe from a national perspective? Are you getting people that are a little bit outside of where you're actually targeting? Another one would be, do they have a path? Is there a common kind of route that they go through your website? Is there a common trend with that? Do people bounce through, 2, 3 pages, or do they, typically just land on one and they leave from that one? And then, the question after that is, do you want to change that? Is that the right path? Is that the right way you want people to go? And then we get into the when. So is there a specific time of day that your business spikes, or that people kind of come to you more? Is it during typical business hours? With the pandemic that we're in right now, has that changed? Are people coming to you earlier in the day? Are people actually coming to you later in the day? How is it shifting what's predominantly been there? Another one could be low month, right? If you're seeing your data decline, is that normal? Is that something that's traditionally happened over the past few years? The other bit is, busy time of the week. Do you have a day that tends to spike? Do you have a day that's, lower? If these are questions that you're not really sure, you're kind of going, I actually don't know that one. Then again, now is the time to learn about your audience and learn, when they're coming to your site. And then, definitely not the least, but certainly last on this one is, what content are they actually viewing? Is there a specific page type? Is your blog getting most of your visits? Is it your service? If it's a service, what kind of service? Is it a specific service? Is it the service that you want? You even have, conversions. Are you getting people to a service page? Are they actually converting off of that page? Are they converting more off of your homepage? Essentially, how are people actually, getting a hold of you? Is it through a lead form? Is it through just an email field? All those things that, again, you should be highly attuned to this. And if you're not, now is the time to go back and learn your audience. Again, analytics, Search Console, Google My Business, all free, all open. If you don't have it, take part of it. If you already have those things, then take the time now, especially while we've got a little bit of maybe downtime or time to work on the business digitally, to actually get through that. So we'll jump into some specifics. Now, at least in my opinion, now is the time to experiment. This is something I would highly encourage everybody, even if you're busy right now is the time to kind of experiment. With this state of flux, a lot of things are up in the air. How people actually do things is not fully set in stone now. People are actually probably becoming more accustomed to having to do things a little bit different. I know, as an example, going to get food, that used to be an option, right? Do I sit down? Do I get it to go? Do I have it delivered to me? And now it's, that's slightly shifting. Those places that you used to have to go sit down are now offering, takeout meals or a quick drive-through. All sorts of things that didn't actually happen before. People that never offered any sort of delivery option are suddenly offering delivery. So in this time of flux, things are certainly bound to change. And so because that time to experiment is now. One of the things that you could certainly do is expand your site. Maybe you could add processes to, how you do things, right? Is there a methodology behind what you do? That's a quick way to kind of separate yourself from your competitors. Service details, if you have specific, benefits or side effects of a service that you provide, or even products. If you don't have those clearly listed and kind of broken out, now's the time to go and add them. FAQs, so you have staff, maybe you've been working with them. Are there questions that you're getting now that you weren't getting back then? Are there questions that you thought that you have never actually put on your website? Those are some things that you can do to essentially expand your site. Another thing you could do is expand the content that you're producing. So you could, do blogging if you're not. I think that one's kind of standard, but podcasts are also becoming a much bigger thing. If you've considered that, now is the time to certainly try it. Video series is another good one, or video tutorials, all sorts of stuff. I mean, even getting into social posting, TikToks, different things like that, where maybe you said, I'm not sure if this is good for my business. Try it now and see what the results are. The biggest one that I will say, especially looking over the long term here, is try to make your services or products, try to make them, faceless, if you will. And by this, I'll give a few examples. If you have like a pest control or lawn company, now is the time to really beef up your content on why it's important to keep up on your yard. You don't want dead grass. You don't want kind of bad side effects of not taking care of your lawn. And maybe you can give tips around that. Maybe you can try to expand why it's important for somebody to partake in like a service like fertilization or something like that. Another thing you could do is show your agenda or show your availability. Allow somebody to just kind of bookmark a time without having to, call you or talk to you directly. Another bit that you could do is go and provide the service, whether that is lawn care, pest control, and provide a summary back to your client. Take the time now to take pictures of the service that you've done and provide that back. Them getting a warm fuzzy back. Okay, I purchased this service and now I'm getting this extra value. That's going to definitely stick with them in the long term. If you're in a kind of more static service like dentistry or something like that. Doctor's office, maybe you focus on education. Maybe you try to explain how things work. Again, try to take some of the things that are already out there, but make it yours. You could also potentially, create graphics during this time. There's a few other things. And one of the ones that I actually experienced was my daughter is in braces right now, and she's, got a wire that's bugging her. And so we called the dental office. They are not taking patients right now, but instead they actually put out a few hours later a video on their social media. It was Instagram specifically, showing how you actually can snip that wire at home, what you need, how you can do it. what happens and just kind of explaining the detail of what happens if you overclip a wire, what happens if you underclip, how do you get that, is there a better tool versus another, and then just kind of re-emphasizing that you can do this at home, make sure you get it done, but if you do have kind of emergency services, let them know. Another one, and this is one that I'll just go over real quick and then we can move on, is retail. There's a lot of options that don't seem apparent up front, but you could do lot sales to really spread out your inventory, right? So that way you can still have people potentially come to you. You could be doing mystery boxes or bags. You could even do like telephone or curbside pickups, so people order if they know what they want, or kind of talk them through that and then just deliver that out to their car. You could do virtual auctions, so you could do this via Facebook, YouTube, whatever it might be. Have somebody come on, you put up something for sale, and then once it sells, you just try to collect the money kind of digitally. Another one is gift card raffle, right? So it's not something immediate today, but it's something for later. And maybe it's a ticket raffle. You have a bunch of people buy in, and you just start doing some raffles during the day. There are all sorts of ways that you could potentially make your business faceless. There's a bunch of examples listed here, but overall, for the long term, if you're not looking to do that today, that's something I would consider, and try to come up with 5 different ways that you could potentially make your service, faceless. So I think those are some great actionable ways. Obviously, I'm actually going to post a few more on my Twitter after this, so you can always go and refer there. I think we can get Boostability to share it as well, just so you have something a little bit more actionable, something a little bit more fun.
Thanks so much, Colton. Those are awesome. So now we're going to open it up into questions if anyone has any questions. And then after that, we'll talk about the series for next week. We have some really special guests coming. Christine, are we getting any questions in? We are happy to answer. If you guys have any, just let us know.
Yep, we've got a couple here through the platform, but first, Mike and Colton, would you share your Twitter handles in case people want to reach out to you directly?
Yeah, so mine is at The Marsh Speaks, I believe. Yes, it's at The Marsh Speaks.
Great.
And then mine is at Big C SEO.
Great. So you can reach out.
We're going to send up a follow-up email that has this video, and we'll make sure to include all the Twitter handles in there. That's a great idea. Thanks, everyone. We'll include that on the slide next time, too.
Okay. So one question we just got is just what is one, Colton, you went over a lot of different specific things that people could do, but to increase their SEO specifically, what is one action item that people can take right now on their website to try to improve visibility during this time?
Content creation. We've hit on it in a few specific ways, but in general, content creation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on your site, obviously, for direct SEO benefit. That's where I would suggest you get your content. And it could be expanding a blog. Like I said, it could be general information. It could be expanding your services. Again, if you haven't taken the time to kind of put your business out there to the nth degree, now is certainly the time.
And Colton, with the content creation, is there something specific they should do, like include certain keywords, or how can they make that content really work for them?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. Obviously, you could do keyword research. You can try to understand how people are looking at that. I think this really ties back to understanding your audience, which is if you don't know that or you're not quite sure what you should be doing, understand who your audience is, understand what they're consuming today on your website. And that will tell you what you need to expand or what you could potentially ignore. You may find an entire section that you thought was absolutely a requirement for your business is not actually doing anything for you. And so in that case, stop putting the effort there and put it in somewhere else. If I were to give you one piece specifically around content, that would be kind of the way of the future. Definitely helps you now, but definitely the way of the future is video, honestly. That allows you to do quite a few things. If you create a video, you can transcribe it, which then gives you all this content. It allows you to talk about things in a more natural way, in a kind of natural language process type way, specifically how Google is understanding queries nowadays and how they're trying to tie them back. And then obviously it gets you a few different things. You can take stills from the video, which you can then use as graphics. You can transcribe it, which gives you a lot of text, and then you have a video. And then if you're offering all those things to your audience, one piece of content, one video could potentially turn into 4 or 5 pieces of content. which means you get a lot of benefit out of one action that you as a business are doing.
That's awesome. You can share that across all your digital channels, all pointing back to your site, and then improve your rankings. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Great. We've got a couple more questions that have just come in. One, in summary, it says it seems organic traffic is down for most industries, of course, toilet paper not being one of those, but what do you say to like travel or, a little bit higher end clients whose traffic is suffering? How do you tell them to stay the course when business has tanked right now? Should they work on SEO or PPC or email or social? What are your resources for that?
I think that we mentioned it, like as we were going throughout here, like a lot of people have pulled back on their PPC spends, their different ad spends, because people aren't able to travel, aren't able to buy. And so in industries like the travel, it's definitely looking for the long term, like we've mentioned, the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't want to stop your content. You have to, but you should probably pivot. You should think about your different content creation, like we've mentioned, the different videos, the different avenues, the different things that you can do. This is a time to reevaluate and to definitely try to pivot. It would be different for every single business, and so it would be hard to give like a specific, your business should do this kind of thing. But in general, it's just like Colton said, and like we've mentioned before, it's looking for those different avenues to pivot, seeing if there's maybe you offer a discount for something in the future, and you say, hey, when we're able to do travel again, like here are some rates. Let's get things, and then just be looking towards that time and addressing those kind of concerns.
Yeah, I think that there's some interesting things you could potentially do. So I'm not sure what your business is, but let's say you are a high-end like travel agent. Maybe what you could do is launch a campaign that's like a wish list campaign. I know that I'm already starting to plan when I can get out of the dang house, like all the places I want to go and things I want to do. So maybe you launch a content campaign that you then promote, across social channels, but it gets people thinking to take an action, and then SEO optimized on your site. All of the channels will lead back to this web page that you build on your site with keywords embedded and everything. But maybe it's like a travel wanderlust wish list, so that it's like when you get out of this pandemic and life returns to normal, where's all the places that you wish you went? Like maybe you said you always wanted to go to Thailand, but you never made that trip. And then you could incentivize people to fill this out and participate in this like wish list. And maybe you highlight your customers' stories of places they want to go. And maybe you do like a sweepstakes where one person is actually going to win plane tickets to that dream vacation, or you offer and you partner, reach out to Delta, reach out to a hotel and have them kind of like donate a room, or you get a discount and you say, hey, we're offering our customers an exclusive discount and you can buy it now and redeem it later. But start teaching your customers to also have that long-term mindset of like, this will end eventually. It's painful right now, but eventually it will end. And I mean, I know that I've been thinking about, where do I want to go that I took for granted that I couldn't do before? So I think there's other things you could do like that to kind of spin up a campaign. But definitely, this is a good downtime to optimize other channels. And you might have to pull back on certain things like cash in, cash out is so important to manage right now. In fact, next week's session is all about managing your accounting, and I'll talk about that soon. But that's kind of something that I was thinking when I heard that question.
Great. Okay, we got a couple more here that have just come in. One attendee, she's got a very specific niche industry and says that when she's tried PPC, it gets confused with other things. So she's also focused on like blogs and content marketing specifically, but what else can she do to better engage her audience and better get her company out there?
Would she be able to share what industry
she says she's a public adjuster, and so occasionally it gets confused with insurance or restoration.
So Instagram Live and content and explaining things right now is being wildly watched, and making people valuable. Like I've actually even seen plumbers talking about like, here's how you change a P-trap, or doing different things like that. So maybe you take some different topics in your industry that often cause confusion for people, and start creating those videos. And you could build a web page on your website, or you could also throw up like an unbounce page and host these videos, or just put them on YouTube. But then promote them across your social channels, but use the time to say, okay, what are the top 5 things people are confused about? And then build content around that. And then that can all connect into like your whole digital marketing strategy of like, you're creating content, you're then optimizing it with keywords, you're posting it on your site or somewhere that's going to bring a bunch of traffic to you. And you kind of use this time to push through the noise and emerge as someone that people should pay attention to, because you're providing that guidance to them. That's an idea I had. Colton, Mike, do you guys have any other ideas with that?
I really like that. Like you mentioned, become a thought leader in your specific industry, right? You're providing these either technical, you're providing this content that is then being consumed by your niche, like by your industry. And if you're the voice that's being heard, then you're that thought leader. And that's something that you can definitely write out with the light at the end of this tunnel. And you can be, hey, I have all this content, and now I get to optimize for it, and I get to just definitely promote it. And that's something I can do in the downtime. I like that.
Yeah, and like with COVID-19, I mean, this is impacting everyone. You can do really focused content about, being a public adjuster and helping people understand, like, is your business, do you have the right business insurance right now? Or like, how is business insurance going to get impacted by COVID-19? And kind of like connect it to that narrative that's going on, and really be a beacon of light for people. Anyone who has a business hopefully has insurance, or anyone who has a family hopefully has insurance. So I could see your services being in huge demand right now, especially in times of uncertainty. You want that security blanket of having insurance and help and things like that.
Great. Okay, we've got one more. How would a newbie digital marketing agency start to create some engagement?
So if you are trying to kind of break through the noise right now, I think that when we keep going back to this, because it's just so impactful since people are online, content creation. How could you start? A weekly webinar series, kind of like what we're doing right now to help people? Like, could you become a voice for your industry and figure out, like, let's say you service a particular market. Come up with kind of like a whole campaign where you're providing free knowledge and education and really becoming an asset to help people. I think that's a great way to kind of get your name out there. Also, something that's huge is co-marketing. Co-marketing is one of the best ways to get your brand exposed to new audiences. So let's say you partner with another agency that maybe has complementary services, but you aren't competing for the same clients, and you guys do something together. Or if you already have a client, like do a partnership with them so that they're promoting your event, your show, your online experience to their database, you're promoting it to your database, and now you've doubled the audience. You can also like reach out to media outlets and see if they, if you could do a column contributing to them, talking about something relevant. I think a really good way when you're starting is to focus on how do you, let's say you don't have that many followers to promote to, so partner with someone who does. And then you can co-promote and get exposed to their database of people as well, while providing something valuable to them. And then from an SEO standpoint, Colton and Mike, this is a great time to really work on your SEO, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll chime in here super quick. One bit, especially when it comes to SEO and obviously content creation, everything, is how can you diversify? I mean, Faceless is a good example for a local business, something along the lines that has typically been done in person. But specifically within the digital space, what can you do to help diversify your business? Can you offer packages? Can you offer education? Can you do something else that might either help improve or add to your business? Or is this something that you could potentially pivot and become more educational and try to make revenue that way? Maybe it is kind of getting your name out there and trying to get some lead information that you could sell. There's a few different ways that you could potentially do it that really just come down to exploring other ways of doing what you're doing business-wise.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody. That's going to wrap up our questions. I do want to let you know that if you need help with SEO, Boostability is here for you. We are the largest small business SEO company in the world. We service in 15 countries, 9 languages, and we are here to help you. So you can visit boostability.com or give us a call at the number below, and we will circulate this. And then next week, I am super excited to tell you guys that we are launching search sessions to focus on how to optimize your accounting during an economic downturn. And we have 2 of the top prominent leaders in the accounting world attending. We have Rafael Casas, the senior accountant advocate at Sage. Sage is the global market leader for technology that helps small and medium businesses manage their finances, their operations, and their people. They're a huge global company. They're trusted by millions of customers worldwide, and they are cloud-based technology and support, and they focus on helping SMBs and partners. So next week, we are going to be diving in with him and Garrett Wagner, the CEO of C3 Evolution Group, who is a Sage Accountant Advisory Council member. And we are going to be covering some really important points. So number 1, the CARES Act. They're going to be taking us through the CARES Act, what you need to know, positive and negative aspects of the act, what this actually means for business, and why you should not wait to get started on it. How to adapt your business accounting strategies during the pandemic. I can't wait to hear that section, just because you can even apply that to your personal life. Cleanup of bad accounting records, resources that are available to you, and fundamental actions that you can take now. And then they're even going to touch on mindfulness. So ways to exercise mental health during this time when many are working from home for the first time at such a huge volume. So you can sign up for our next session on Boostability's Facebook page. And then we will be sending out a follow-up email with this video, and we'll also be posting it on YouTube tomorrow. And then they'll be linked to the next session. But the next session is going to be amazing. Please join us, learn about how to optimize your accounting during an economic downturn. And we will always have our SEO experts on as well to talk about weekly SEO solutions. So we are here to help you and be a resource. And thank you for your time today. I know everyone's busy. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much.